Cool beans.
That was very cool. Dun, 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 dun.
I love the cheerfulness of the music. That intro was created for me in between the creation of the two Sacred Hearts Rising that I was blessed to have the opportunity to be a part of. And it got buried amongst the many files on my computer. And then as I've been working through the organization through a program that's called OneNote, I'm finding
Oh, I know
things.
OneNote. Yep.
Oh my God, OneNote is woo woo, and it's a big project. I try not to allow myself to get too overwhelmed. I look at all that I have organized and I focus on that at the end of the day. I'm like, you go, girl. And I don't get too caught up in, oh my God, I couldn't find that. I
I, I
found
think I think that's a really important thing. I love the title of this. Um, is not to allow yourself to get too overwhelmed as you go to find. And when you do, I love this go-getters. Um, it's all right to go. I'll come back to it. I will come back to this. You know.
Mhm. Mhm, 'cause there's so much that we can, "Oh, I have to take out the garbage, and I have to get the kids to school, and I have to pay my bills." And that series of thoughts can really get you into a poo-poo, pissy state of mind. So,
Yes.
where do you wanna spend your day all day? Because guess what, sunshine? You're with you, right? Like, that's what happens when grumpy people are in your life and they move off in a different direction. There goes Johnny or there goes Jenny. They're off on their own highway. You know, that's they're spending their day in that energy of yuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get to take out the garbage. You get to do the dishes. Remember when you were a kid and you were excited with stuff like that?
I think I always grew up doing it. Yeah, there were certainly jobs I liked better and than others.
I
Um,
love taking the garbage out because then I got to, especially as a teenager, I got to take the garbage out. I was so excited. I'm like, I'll take out the garbage, right? It was just, I was an only child, so there really wasn't anybody else. And I'd take out the garbage and I'd sneak outside and I'd do all those naughty things that I wasn't allowed to do, like cigarette, I'd have another thing. And I'd come back in and I'd perfume, because then my mom wouldn't know and my mother knew. Um, so
it's funny because yeah, I mean, um, I always liked take the garbage out because it was fast, it was done, as opposed to the dishes and the ones that are multi steps and took more time. I did measure things in time, like well, that one takes a lot longer. But we had a chore list growing up. You know,
oh,
I was one of six and then nine.
I had the chore list, Kitty, because
You
my
were the
mom
chore list.
was the chore list because with my mom's disability, there was such an expectation on me, and boy, I played the poor me card in my brain for a long time. And I learned to suck it up buttercup too because it was simple. If chores were not done on Saturday, I didn't get to hang out with friends. I didn't go to church on Sunday, I didn't get to hang out with friends. I would do things to hang out with friends. I'm like, "Fine, I'll do it." And our
Well,
house had to be ready just in case they came over to visit.
who's yeah? I'd like to meet days sometimes.
They
I've
never
spent
came.
Yeah. Well, and I still have people, they'll refer to something, they'll say, well, they say. I'm like, who's they? Can I meet them? Could you please tell me who they is? And I started asking that question pretty young. Who's they? Don't be smart with me. I'm not being smart. Who's they? Like, who's this mysterious they that I've been hearing about my whole life? You know?
Mhm.
Um, and it's a way for people not to, take their own thoughts and create it outside themselves. You're they. When you're
Yes,
you are
yes.
they, as opposed to owning, I had a thought, right.
Oh,
And
so true, so
and
true.
you give away your power that way.
You completely give away your power, and you do not question your thoughts. Do you remember,
That's one of
Wayne
those
Dyer?
zones in your brain.
Wayne Dyer? He wrote Erroneous Zones.
Mhm. Yes.
And wow, if you it's such a pivotal book in his collection. And then he wrote many other because he expanded so much upon those thoughts. I still have my Wayne Dyer collection, and it's one that I like looking back on to remind myself where the beginning of the change in my mindset came in the 90s.
Um,
When I began to question, like, what the what of my life?
well, I think that's a really interesting question. So if you're watching this, just pause this for a minute. If you're watching this on replay and say, "What when did the change shift for me?" And mine would be Louise Hay's, "You Can Heal Your Life," you know?
I've
Um,
got it in a binder,
and there was a lot of beautiful,
right? I've
beautiful,
got it in a binder because I printed it. Oh, I painted that.
beautiful,
Yeah, I've got
beautiful,
quite
beautiful.
the painter in me. So when I took my Reiki training, one of the many times where I changed my beliefs, that was the mandala that my mentor, Hazel, had given me as part of my homework, my training. And I took it and I used watercolor. I took it and transferred it onto watercolor paper, used watercolor pencils, and then washed the edges. I like softer edges in drawing and in life. So the reason that I printed off You Can Heal Your Life is so that I could take it to the homework feeling of life. I loved homework in school when it was a class I enjoyed.
I will
Spirit's
say,
like, yeah, no, you didn't, not economics. I'm like, oh, economics didn't count. Macro, micro, what's the difference? Oh, big. Yep.
well, uh, it's so funny to me that you say that because I also think of um, geometry. I used to sit there in the back going, "Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to," and then yet I got older physics, all that stuff, and now I'm like into the spiritual quantum physics and looking at sacred geometry. But back then, I would have said nobody needs this. Yeah, they do.
I wonder if they would have taught it differently.
You know.
Perhaps.
But what
Perhaps.
I did like in geometry, once I understood how to use it, and that's a big key for learning, was proofs. Step by step, proving why this is conjunct this, but other than that, it's still kind of out there, the rest of it. So it is interesting so for me, You Can Heal Your Life was the first time I really challenged my thoughts. I mean, I thought about lots of things, but I literally challenged them as not being true. I released the need. I released the need. Um, and interestingly enough, it was one of the first book groups I really was a participant in. I worked with some women at a group home,
Mm,
and we did that book together. Um,
wow.
One was in her late 20s, early 30s, married. I was in my early to mid 20s. And the other woman was in her 40s. And,
Mm.
just looking at how do I release just that whole concept, I can actually really take a look at my life and do something different. And it's never stopped since. Well, let me find a new piece of information about my life.
So
Um,
beautiful. So beautiful. I pulled cards earlier and I really want to share them because I'm so excited. The first two cards are the exact same cards as yesterday, and I shuffle my deck quite well. So
oh, yeah,
that
I've
in itself
watched you.
is exponentially super duper cool. So yesterday, the first card that I pulled was the Justice card. And today, same first card. And when you look at justice, what have you done in the past and do now in the present will affect our future. Equilibrium, balance, and fairness. So often in life, and not there. And I mean, I'm just as human as everybody else, right?
Mhm.
And yet what I did yesterday brought me to today. And what I do today brings me to tomorrow. It's that whole karmic return.
Yes, it is.
So
It's
cool.
and
Cool.
it, it is. I'm pondering that. As much as I know it, I sometimes forget that each moment is a new gift in what I can do, and how I show up in my own life.
Mhm.
Um, and that's quite important. I had a beautiful couple days with a really difficult week of energy. Um, and,
Mhm.
and this is where spirit shows up. I was busy in a time that I could have got I had to say a lot of times, I released the need, I released the need, I released the need. And, but I was with two beautiful women
Mhm.
who, we're all just here walking each other home, and each brings a gift that and different timing in the space that we all hold. I can release the need again and again and again. What an amazing concept, you know. She was a woman who healed her own cancer. That's what if you don't know Louise Hayes, that's one of the things that she did. She just um, released
Mhm.
her own cancer. I released
Absolutely
the need.
released. Released. Absolutely released. And that's where there is so much in life that when we do physical exercise and there's a part of our body that's a little bit tight after an exercise. That's a reason why we stretch to release the tension in our bodies.
Mhm.
Leads to the second card. Same card as yesterday, Two of Pentacles. Your
That's a
balance.
beautiful card.
Isn't that beautiful? I love this deck. This is the Witch's Tarot. It's my main deck for teaching. It's the first deck I teach from. I teach from 3 different decks. This is the first
But
one.
that particular image I find striking.
Mhm. Oh, it is. It is. Your balance or lack of balance sends out ripples. How are you balancing your time and energy? And that's what you did and are doing. Same as me. How are we balancing all that we have to do and all that we get to do, right? Like that balance of it. What an interesting thought.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And, so you have this Wayne Dyer collection.
Mhm.
That would be my jump off book. I think that was really the first time I interacted with a book that I went, oh. And then the next book I read followed on its heels, is not a well-known book. I'm looking at it because it's down there. I found it years later and on Goodreads. Love Abe's books and Goodreads that you find at Amazon. You can find out of print stuff and it was called The Right Use of Will. And
Oh, who's that by?
uh, I'd have to go get it. It. I don't think it made it past a certain stage. Remember production books were self, and they were plain covers, and they would get picked up. Um,
Yeah.
but the concept that came out of that, after looking at I can release, is that negative is not bad. Um, it's not about quantitatively assigning things. It's where human beings get caught up is in their denials, because when you deny what you are, who you are, something that's happening, that's when you give your power away. And it's not
Mhm.
to say it has to overcome you. It's to say it's not about me judging it. It's letting it be, being present with it.
Yeah.
Um, and then years later, I would learn from another wonderful book called My Stroke of Insight by Jill Taylor.
Isn't
Uh,
that amazing?
yeah, that's an amazing book. That you only have to feel your feelings for 90 seconds.
Yep.
And then just don't assign them in that pattern, that denial pattern, that whatever to try to make sense. Just feel them, and then they will go where they need to go. And it connects to um, the ability to release those things that have caught you in their patterns. So
Oh, it's so beautiful, and when you combine those thoughts with breath and mantra, like, I remember when I started using, mala beads to work my way through the, 108, of the mala beads. So the 108 is exponentially amazing because it speaks to the distance between planets. It speaks to
I
the
don't know
number of
anything about this.
the 108?
Yeah, no, I don't know anything about this.
Oh my gosh. So I will next time I will have the document in front of me so that I'm able to speak to the facts. One of the things is the 108 nadis in the body. So those are the energy points that you see on the great big chart when you go to
With all the meridians, all the
yes,
yes, yeah.
yes, yeah, 108. How miraculous is that? And oh,
I mean, I've
there's
heard
so
the 108, but I didn't know there was beads and
oh
yeah.
yeah, 108 beads on a mala. So this mala, I love this one, was gifted to me after Emily passed away, because there was a ceremony that the kind woman who owned the yoga studio with her father that I went to in St. Albert offered to me. And I had no idea what she was talking about or anything. I just said yes, because I was so in need of a way to continue to honor Emily's passing. And so we sat in a circle, and there was a mantra that was, it was a kriya, so a song that was sung, and it's Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandham Pushti Vardhanar Udvar Ukamina Bandhana and Amra Maksha Mikti. I'm not saying it with proper Sanskrit. When I've got the words in front of me, I can, and it was helping the soul move forward and helping the souls who were struggling. And I had no idea this was going on. So once I was able to move forward in my grief, I had to sit in it and then begin to move forward. I took the beads, 108, Kitty, 108, that's long.
Mhm.
And I began to just work on my breath. So inhale, exhale, move your finger to the next beat. Inhale, exhale, move your finger to the next beat. So, in working through that, I mean, my mind was not in a place of contentment. I would sit there with the beads and be like, Lord, thunder in Jesus, how much longer is this going to take? And then I'd look down at my beads and I'd be like, ugh, didn't look like I got very far today. And I
Mhm.
would do it from day after day after day until months later, I got to the end of the beads and I touched that center bead again, because there's one bead at the top all the way around. And I'm like, oh, I did it. And the mantra was, I am here. That's it. I am
Oh,
here. Tik Nahan. Tik Nahan.
so the word for that, so we get to exchange knowledge. I do these cards every year with a word on them. This is
Oh,
this year's
yes.
confidence. This is another last year grace with pictures. There's actually something called the soul collage, and it's really creating your own tarot deck. But I use them more for like here's one you would love.
Yes.
So the word for I am here, that word came to me. Um, Adsum. ADS. It's called Adsum, Adsum, if you look it up. And
Okay.
it's be at hand, be present, I am here, be near, assist, all of those being here, attend, I am here. The word is Adsum, Adsum.
Wow. Wow. My word for this year was sparkles.
Sparkles.
That was my that was my word. I was gonna sprinkle sparkles everywhere I went. And I did. I truly did. And a lot of sparkles on myself to keep me in the light and able to move forward, right? Because through the challenges of life, right? Not just in writing my memoir, but simply living, right? I mean, come on. Come on. So the third
Remember
card,
doesn't do anything if unless you are still living. And so it's a reflection of that.
oh, I love that. The third card, the 6 of cups.
Now
So
that's
in
the new one this time,
that's the
right?
new one. That's the new one. And this is the way of being to adapt, to adopt so that we can move forward and adopt a childlike type of wonder for the world around you. Let your imagination guide you into a new creative project. Believe in magic again. And the beauty of that is that we have the ability to create so many things in our life. The more childlike joy and fun and adventure we add, the more fun we have the ability to do. And that's, I mean, it just resonates with the entire message. I get to go and meet a friend today for coffee. Yay! Not, oh, I gotta go. I have to go and meet Hazel, right? Like that's a terrible way to go into a meeting is I have to. Unless it's something you don't wanna do, and then you have to, because there are things that we have to do to move away from the things that we no longer want, that no longer serve us. Again, back to Louise Hay. You can heal your life. You can. You must do something about it, and then your life will change.
Well, just a second.
I'm going to the bank,
Okay.
and then I'm going to the doctor's. Medicare's charged my account $257. I have no idea why.
Okay.
Why would Medicare charge my bank?
Um,
I called the number. It's Medicare.
so
So I gotta go find out the
okay.
charge. I'm gonna go to the bank, and I'm going back home.
Okay, honey.
Oh, I love that accent. He sounds so American.
Oh, well, it's as American as you can be.
I love that. I love that because every time that I hear my American friends speak, it's like I'm in this movie. I'm like, "Oh my god, there's an American on the scene. So cool."
Yeah. Well, it's very, very much the well, it's down east, so it's the original colonies, that kind of Massachusetts. Only it's Maine, so it's an adaptation. At one time, Maine and Massachusetts were one state.
Wow.
It was a huge, huge state. So,
Yes, the way that our borders have changed because Canada was one great big plot of land that was not settled on by anyone other than the original forefathers and mothers, grandmothers, grandfathers, beautiful. And I love thinking about that. I look sometimes across the fields in my country. I've got a beautiful, beautiful country here in Canada. And sometimes I look across the plains and I remember how blessed I am to be in this country. And one of the songs that often will sing in my mind is Iron Maiden, Run to the Hills.
I
And
like
it's
that.
like, yeah, it's true, right? Like what what the result of taking over a country was. It wasn't all sunshine and happiness. That's something that I believe is very important to remember. And I look at that when I ponder Remembrance Day. For you, it's Veterans Day and a birthday. I think of how I came to be in the home that I am. And I remember all of the people that were sacrificed so that I could be here. It's a big day for me. It really is. Yeah, and
Yeah,
there was big.
I think I posted that day, even though I know it's Veterans Day here. And I'm happy to share my day with the veterans. I love the concept more of Remembrance Day. Remembering who we are, remembering where we've been, remembering a day to pause and even remember who we don't completely understand that we are or how we've been.
Yeah.
That's in my little song I sing. I remember who I am, basically my crystalline, my center self. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's a powerful place of being. Yeah. I love how our birthdays are both so symbolic. I was born on October the 9th, which is the same day as John Lennon's birthday. And I remember that often because of so many of the lyrics within the words of the songs that he sang. He was such a controversial human being too. There was that, oh, John Lennon, and then, oh, John Lennon, him and Yono, yep, oh no.
yeah.
um, yeah. But there was just such controversy in his life, depending upon whether you resonated with him or not. And quite often in life, we don't resonate with everyone. And when we understand our natal chart or astrological significance in this world, there's a lot. So in this next week, Kitty, can you tell us about the astrology and what's
Yeah. Let
the
me get
overall?
Well, the 15th is a big day.
Mhm.
And that actually came to me not necessarily astrologically, but that came in the spirit communication. We continue to come back to it. And the 3 days before, which we're in now, and the 3 days after. And there's a clearing that is happening. We had Venus move into Capricorn on Veterans Day, on Remembrance Day. And Venus in Capricorn is about stabilizing, getting work. What do I value? Our potential, clearing out, all of those things. The full moon is the 15th, and this full moon in Taurus promises quite the stabilization of who we are, what we value, along with we have Saturn that goes direct. And so Saturn direct in Pisces is a real focused flow that we've been kind of wrestling with. And then again, we go on past that and we have getting ready for next Tuesday when Pluto moves in the 20 plus year placement of Aquarius for the last time. So we're sitting here at this 29th degree, really looking at restructuring what is going on, what is happening, the energy that is happening. So
Mhm. Yeah, the restructuring, Kitty, I get that. I mean, I was so Spirit said fastidious. What does that mean?
fastidious, detailed, yeah.
I was just trying to pronounce what they were telling me. Fastidious. And I was very fastidious in organizing my documents and my notes in OneNote. I mean, in a way whereby for the last 4 days, in and out of, enjoying the joys of my life, really buckling down. And it wasn't as though I was being forced. It was a calling within me to organize the structure of what it is that I want to communicate more. Not just in the communication of the Tea and Tarot, which is the course that I'm developing into a wow, 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 wonderful. Um, it's in all of the teachings that I'm presenting in the next year, because if I have all of my notes and understandings and learnings scattered in binders and boxes and files, oh boy, then I can't find the documents. And when I can't find what I'm looking for, I'm not a beautiful reflection of me at all. At all. It's the same as the legalities of my life right now, the things that I was forced to do because of um shifts. That's the best way that I can describe it. So shifts in my career, and the legalities of those shifts to be able to either whine and complain about the situation that I'm in, or to, all right, who do I put on my incorporation papers as taking over for my business as a succession plan when I can no longer do it? I don't like thinking about those things. I don't like thinking about who's going to take over for me in the event that I'm not able to take care of myself. Well, what about if I want to go on a vacation for a year? Who's going to take care of exponential joy? Who do I
Right.
put in that place? Who is the second? Who is the third? And I mean, I paced around my house yesterday after my lawyer's appointment, Kitty. Oh, stupid, right? And I'm like, because my lawyer, she says, well, quite often, and I love the lawyer's tone, quite often we put our significant other, our spouse, in that position. What? No, not my guy. Right. And I mentioned it to him this morning. He's like, not a chance. So to think about who has the skill and who is willing to be that person in my life. And you need to name more than one in case that one's not available. Right. If the
Right.
ship goes down and everyone's on the Titanic, who's left behind? And that's something I've struggled with in my life is writing those things into being, because I don't like the idea of not being here. I plan on being here till I'm 124. Y'all ain't getting rid of me. And yet I must face the reality.
You and Joanne should have a conversation because you guys both have these long longevity. I'm happy making it into my 90s.
What?
Um, I am. I'm very happy making it
30
into my
more
90s.
years?
Huh?
Only 30 more?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
You know. Um,
Well, make
I'm
sure that
over.
you fill a dime bag full of your ashes, one for me and one for Joanne, so that
Yeah.
we can take it with us everywhere we go and sprinkle 'em.
Oh,
I like
there's
a dime.
there's my new business plan. I'm going to be the astrologer for all these other famous growing people, so
Oh,
that
well, they need some clues. I mean,
well,
I
it's
said that.
keep them grounded. Yeah,
I
that's
was
my job.
talking about some people, and I'm not naming names because I'm not jumping on the Bloods or Crips situation on the other side of my border. Not going Bloods or Crips. I'm just not doing it. I know where I stand, and that's all that I'm saying. So as over the weekend, there were a few television shows that we were watching, and some get my blood just to boiling, and I need to separate myself from that show because not everybody's views are mine. And I was really just like, oh, I'm not. I mean, seriously, I had to leave the room and come into my room because you've been saying it for a long time. Hate makes nothing great.
Mm-hmm.
And those conversations that are just venomous on both sides. On both sides. And I'm like, y'all need to understand your purpose and intention in this world. Because I believe that we can purposefully and intentionally create something by talking nice to each other. And if you can't say it nice, you need to go back to your room until you can figure it out. So, yes, there are
Good luck
many
with
people
that.
in this world who can benefit from your. I mean, could you imagine if our leaders knew their astrology and understood what their divine purpose was in this world? Huh. I'm
Um,
putting it out there for you, Kitty. I hope both of them call you
um, uh, or care to know.
or
Um,
Karen. Yeah.
care to know. And it there is a definite polarity
Oh,
that's happening, and I gotta admit I'm part of it. If you want a life of hate and nastiness and all of that stuff, then you go right ahead and sign up for that. I'm not signing up for it, which means there are going to be less people in my life. There's going to be less people in intuition of the soul when I say that. Hey, you
oh,
know,
And that's okay. I sat down with my guy, Ralph, and I explained to him what misogyny was.
Mm-hmm.
Then Spirit led me to a conversation with my one son, and I explained to him what misogyny was. And what was beautiful was that my son went, I get it. You've taught me this, Mom. And I'm like, yeah, I have, haven't I?
Go, Mom. Yeah.
And he was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, Mom, remember the number with Ralph. It's 10. And I'm like, I know it's 10, buddy, but we've been together for 11 years. And he's like, yeah, so now he's getting it. He's 1 year into getting it. I'm like, 1 year in? How old are you? And he's like, well, yeah, I know. And that's it. Until our eyes are opened
Mm-hmm.
and we have a willingness to look. If you don't have a willingness to look, that's it. You're stuck.
Right. I talked to my brother yesterday for 2.5 hours about this subject, and he credits his children with having him look at some of the things he had participated in life, and they'd be like, Dad, this doesn't match what you've been saying.
Oh.
And he said at first, I fought it, but I really started to listen. And it was interesting because I was telling him something that had happened in our life together in the same family. And he kept saying, this makes me sad. I said, well, no, what you have is compassion. Because I just can't believe that that's what happened to you with our parents, with our father in particular. And I said, I'm okay with it at this point in time. It is who Dad was. And because exactly what you're talking about, this was his mindset. It was my second mother's mindset. And he said, but I'm incredibly sad that somebody who has the means and the way to do it wouldn't do it. And I said, but that's part of what this whole thing that we're dealing with on this border is about. And it's just what I think the key for a lot of people, for me, it is I can just live the life I live and surround myself with the people. It's not that I won't reach my hand across the aisle. And this is an and, not a but. And if you're willing to prioritize money, prioritize this, prioritize that, when you're not, I'll be here. But right now, you're not my people. And it's okay. You don't have to be my people.
Absolutely, Kitty. We don't have room for all the people. We only have room for the people who we resonate with now. And if you look back in time, again, the masochist, the misogynist behavior. When I graduated from high school, I was encouraged to go into school for secretarial arts. I was not encouraged to become an engineer. I was not encouraged to become a corporate leader. I was not encouraged because my mom, in her limited knowledge, wanted me to have a job that I could fall back on. I remember how she said that. You need a career that you can fall back on. And what she didn't say was, I want to protect you from living the life I lived, whereby I was I had to take care of myself because I was a single woman. I went through a divorce. And I became a single mom, and I needed a steady income and a steady job, right? She never said any of those things, and it's okay. I am that now. I am the engineer of my life. Very much so. Very much so. I understand what the 5 pillars of love are that are needed. I understand so many things because I am an extremely learned woman. I became that because I needed to. because I wasn't treated that way, the polar opposite. I know that safety, belonging, love, being loved, being seen, and being heard are the 5 pillows of love, right? Like, remember that you deserve relationships where you feel valued, understood, and truly cared for. Being loved, seen, and heard is fundamental to feeling whole and secure. And it's something everyone should experience. I don't say should often. And when I do, it's with intention.
Mhm.
If you're not being treated that way, you should be treated that way. And if you're not treating other people that way, you should be treating people that way. It's
Well, and what you participate in is important. So one of the things that has happened since this big whirlwind
Mhm.
is there are people out there emboldened to make other people feel unsafe. You know, one of the big things being released by a particular population is your body, my choice.
Mm.
There was a big text that went out to people of color, men in particular. Go report to the plantations. You were always owned. You know, uh, this is the culture that people have prioritized to buy into. It's not that it didn't exist before, but now it's rather emboldened because it doesn't matter what you say, it's only what you put out there into the world, the misogyny. And it is public and it is, there's a reason why in The Handmaid's Tale everybody escaped to Canada.
Oh, honey bee, I have been watching it and reading it with passion.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very true. In The Handmaid's Tale, everyone escaped to Canada because there was freedom here.
Right.
And I mean, I have been talking to people in ways that is listening very, 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 very intently and then asking questions. Like I said to somebody yesterday, I said, so if tariffs are placed in America so that products that come into America from other countries, Canada, Mexico, if there's tariffs on this,
China.
China, all of a sudden, well, then our stuff isn't being shipped out, so our economy is affected. Well, then we'll just do the same thing. I said, well, Sunshine, we're a little bit behind in this game of let's just produce products for Canada for Canada. We don't have the distribution system because our leader is doing things very differently. So I understand why by Canada. That's just the purchase Canadian made in Canada. I love that idea. And it's going to be a bit more expensive. And our dollar is not what it is in America. I mean, the exchange rate,
Our,
Kitty, is
yeah, and our dollar's not going to stay there. So we are a world economy. Like it
yes.
or not, we
Mhm.
are. And
Yep.
so, that box of cereal you were bitching about that was $7 is now
Mm.
going to be $12, $13 because if we're not pulling these things in because they're like, well, I'm not going to be charged that. There are, I understand what you're saying about Canada, but there are thousands of other countries then that will step into this. You don't think they're not going to step into this role? Oh my. And so all of a sudden it's like, do you know that's the number one Googled thing in the last 5 days? What is a tariff? Like,
I wouldn't be surprised. I
and and
wouldn't be
and the
surprised.
number two thing that's been Googled, how do I take my vote back?
Wow. Wow. Those are things that, take it back. Take it back. Do you remember that as children, Kitty?
Yeah.
When
No
I
take backs. That you used to call that. No take backs.
I remember my boys fighting in my brother's front yard, during his, gift opening for his wedding.
Hmm.
This is many years ago because he's already, that marriage has been dissolved, and they're both in beautiful relationships with others, and I love that both are in a happiness. That the marriage didn't have to go fisticuff, you know. And
There is
I
ways
remember
to take things back civilly. Yeah,
there
this
are
is
ways
yeah.
that's it, that's it. And my boys were in the front yard, and my sons were trying my older son was trying to shove his brother's face in a pile of dog poop because his brother had tripped him in playing, and he had fallen into a pile of dog poop and got it all over his favorite shirt. And there was that take it back, take it back, take it back. And we went outside. Well, the whole wedding party stopped and looked outside. And I'm like, oh my God, bye, boys. And my brother came down with 2 shirts and gave a skater shirt to each of the boys. There's plenty for you all.
Mhm.
There's plenty for you all. There is. There always has been, Kitty. And yet the equal distribution.
Well, you know, this is my youngest brother. I spoke to 2.5 hours. Is a very has done very well for himself. Is very settled and many things. And he was talking about that um, because, and in the story I was telling him about my life with my parents, um, and how he listened to his son, um,
Mm,
and how he's looked at. There is enough for all. I have enough. So if I can give beyond what enough is, and he said, frankly, that was what he was so disheartened with, is some of the people who had the most were the people who were, you know,
right?
so
Just
worried
holding
about it.
on. Just holding on in such a greedy way. Greed is greed is obvious. Greed is blatant. It's in the need to have gold jets and yachts and I'm not saying that those who have, I'm not putting everybody into one lane.
Right.
I understand success, and I have people in my life that are very, very successful. I mean, that's why I'm blessed when I travel to stay in some pretty extraordinary homes. Pretty extraordinary.
Mhm.
Yet there are those, when we were down in Puerto Vallarta, there was a yacht, Kitty, that was in the harbor. It was massive, like football fields in mass. I mean, there was a helicopter pad, there was an opening for jet skis and boats, and there was a staff that walked round and round and round and round. And then no one was on the boat. No one was enjoying the boat. The boat was simply there for everybody to see. And I said, that's sad. That's a shame. And I was the only one that saw it that way until I was able to explain where my heart was coming from. Could you imagine our family on that boat? Yours and mine and our friends simply enjoying the pleasures of what is sitting, not being used? That's just for show?
Well, I kind of thought that quite a bit when I was in St. Augustine. How many of those places on the water were empty?
Mhm.
And um, just this absolute fear that you must live in not to have. So I will not say the character's name, but there is a person who I think is now the wealthiest in the world. Not 100% sure, but very up there, who has enough money to give every man, woman, and child in North America $40,000 and still have millions left. Not
So
billions.
when you say North America, does that include us?
Mexico,
Wow.
yeah,
Oh,
every,
wow.
and
That's insane.
honestly, I think the amount, if you talk about everybody in the world, was something like um, 500,000. It's an obscene amount, like numbers hard to understand.
Mhm.
And my question is, why aren't you doing it?
I know. I often wonder that too, because I'm blessed to have some brilliant philanthropists in my life who have not-for-profit organizations, and I love supporting them. I was talking about one yesterday, and there's a event that's called Girls on Fire, and it's an empowerment event for young girls. And my friend Teresa connects with my friend Dorothy, and Dorothy works like there's women that are putting this together with the help of some very um, generous sponsors, male and women. And I had the discussion, and I brought it to the attention of a dear friend of mine, and he said, "Well, that's nice. We need to do something for the boys too." And I said, I'm sure that is a just statement. I'm focusing on women and girls because I'm welcomed in that environment more so than I am in the boys' club. I tried to play in the boys' club for 35 years in corporate. That's what put me into a physical place of pain, because 35 years of pulling more than my own weight, pulling, pushing, carrying, lifting.
Because you had to prove you were worthy to be there.
Well, and the expectation of what I needed to do, because equal pay for equal work, I ain't ever been paid equal to a man.
No.
Ain't ever.
No.
Even when I was in my highest ranking role with the highest financial payment, I was still paid 30% of what the other men in the organization were paid. 30%. And I knew the numbers. I did the books. Right? Being a bookkeeper was a blessing in my life. And talk about nails on a chalkboard, man. When you know the financial statements and how much you get paid, and then you go for a raise and they give you pennies on a dollar.
Or they say things like, this year we're not, I recently had a friend tell me that they announced that there would be no merit increases this year, and that they weren't going to be filling a position. So not only were they not getting an increase, but they were not going to be filling a position, and they were going to distribute the duties amongst the other people. And it was a primarily female department. Shocking.
Oh, I know, it's interesting. My one son has a mathematical mind. He remembers phone numbers and addresses. I still remember clearly the assets and liabilities, the shareholders' loans accounts. And I mean, I've worked probably for 10 to 12 mid-sized successful businesses. And when the shareholders at Christmas time grant their employees a $7,500, $200 gift certificate, and they're like, I've given so much, and I know how much that adds up to. And then I see what they gift each other.
Oh, yeah.
And then they wonder why I behave. Oh, Nancy just doesn't, she's not grateful. She doesn't know how to behave. I'm like, yeah, fucking rights I don't. And kiss my ass.
This gentleman I'm talking about, again, I'll just say he lives in the state I live in. Not an American citizen, naturalized citizen.
Are we reading about, are there lines to read between?
Oh,
Here's Johnny.
Yeah. Cars are important in his life. We'll go right there.
I love our banter.
Talking about being in charge of some ministry to make sure that entitlement, and I'm like, why don't you just take your spare change and balance the effing budget, and then we don't have to worry about this now, do we?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it would be no skin off your nose whatsoever.
And what gets me, Kitty, is that it's not one person. We don't have the king of the castle. I'm the king of the castle and you're the dirty rascal. That's
I'm
not how. Is
Yeah.
that how it works? I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm the king of the castle, you're the dirty rascal. Yep.
Okay. So we don't have one person in charge, no matter what we're looking at, whether it is a tyrannical rule, a bureaucratical, democratical, monarchy, kings and queens. There are people beneath who have the ability to influence. And the big question is, who are you who's watching this, influencing in your life? Who are you empowering? And that's why when I surround myself with strong men and women, I have men in my life that encourage me in ways that I talk about them openly to my friends, my supporters, my people. Like I have clients that come to me for guidance, and I'm like, this is what I can work with you on. You got to go see this guy because his coaching style is going to pull your head out of your ass.
Well, and
I honor. I'm not a. Someone had called me a feminist.
I'm just
I'm
a
like,
I'm
it's me.
a realist who lives as a lives in a society that, all a feminist is somebody who says, "Hey, just because I own this equipment doesn't mean it needs to be different for me. I may
That's
think a little bit differently, um,
Well,
but
that's where the misogynist conversation stemmed from.
yeah." And so, like I said, this person being in charge of money to me is like, because he has it. I appreciate the people like Warren Buffett. I will say his name, wealthy man who says, "Yeah, I should pay more because is the difference?" They're so worried about the guy who's getting it for free. You know, uh,
What,
you're
free food stamps?
Yeah, whatever they're getting, to eat, you know? And he's like, what does it matter if I have billions of dollars? If somebody else, it's not my job. Again, it's not my job to say, okay, well, yep, they're sucking off the system. So what? They got another. Are they sucking off in a yacht that's empty? Probably not. Probably not. And so why is this so important that you make other people responsible rather than help? One of the things that I do not entertain in conversations any longer is that whole, well, there's so many people getting it for free, abusing the system. Bullshit. First of all, you ever tried to access the system? You got to be a little, and secondly, um, the line in Jesus Christ Superstar comes to mind. There will be poor always, pathetically struggling. Look at the good things you've got, and it's like, why are you're so busy taking care of this other person who I'm not mentioning their name in Florida. You're so busy worrying about how you're going to even this out when you could seriously take care of countries and make significant and still live your disgustingly exotic life. Where's the gratitude? That is what misogyny is. Like, where is the gratitude here that, um
Yep.
and
I mean,
if you were already a person who was helping other people, if you were Warren Buffett, I'd be going, God, that's a really good person, understands the energy of money and understands the whatever line you draw, but not the person who is so disgustingly wealthy that, they're
well,
out
and
there self-serving for
I
what? You can't take it with you.
absolutely, and I've got 4 letters, WWJD. What would Jesus do? Not going all biblical.
Hmm.
I'm simply bringing up a situation where there was bread and wine and enough for everyone. Sharing. Sharing.
And look what they did to him. Because ultimate misogyny was, it was too much, you know, whether you believe he actually stayed there, or you believe he went to Egypt, or whatever you believe, it was still, so it's, you have to start in your own backyard. That was the conversation with my brother yesterday. He said, there are other things I can learn to do, and I'm now aware of it. And I just don't understand the need for other people to be so having to be worried about the guy who might, where is this in what your profession of, I care about people, but I only really care about people is if my box of cereal isn't so expensive, if my gas isn't so expensive, if my, I'm so worried about, and that's where I am in this. I loved it. Would you say Crips and
Bloods and Crips?
Bloods and Crips. That's where I'm in my Bloods and Crips is, whatever. I'm not here to be nasty about any of it. I'm here to say, you know what? If that is your priority, you are not my soul tribe.
Well, and that's where we all have the right to choose, and it's important to choose. It's important to choose because then that's where you put your sight. So my final discussion will be, if I say to you, Kitty, go out into the world and look for things that are red, you will see things that are red, and you will miss all the things that are blue. If I say to you, go out and look for all the things that are blue, you will miss all the things that are red. So back to color theory. Blue and red make what color?
Purple.
And purple is divinity.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to think about divinity and what can we do in our lives every day to move in the direction of the divine.
Right.
I know what I need to do. I know what I need to do. And that's what I'm doing, right? That's what I'm doing.
Right. And
It goes another an hour. Like, look at this time. It just goes flying by when we get going.
Flies by. So, all right. Well, we'll see you next Wednesday.
We will see you next Wednesday.
We will see what. Good thing we're not on Tuesdays.
No, I know. Naughty Nance wants to change it, and wise Nance knows that wisdom on Wednesday is a great thing. We may do a Tuesday episode coming in the new year. We'll have See You Next Tuesday with Kitty and Nance, or Nance and Kitty, and then we'll do one. We can do both, can't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can. So
peace out, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to our thoughts, feelings, vibrations, and frequency.
Namaste. Soul light in me greets the soul light in you.